There we
Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. This program is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory, where we talk about some of the concepts that Dr. Glasser has made famous and has proven to be so effective in helping us be more humane. So I'm going to share the screen. We're going to be talking today about the 7 principles of reality therapy. And it's based on 2 books that Dr. Glasser wrote, his reality therapy and then also the Identity Society. So in reality therapy, a new approach to psychology, Dr. Glasser, in the foreword to it by O. Hobart Maurer, the research professor of psychology at the University of Illinois, among many other things, he said that Dr. Glasser's reality therapy had 3 R's, and that was reality, responsibility, and right and wrong. And so in the book, Reality Therapy, the very first chapter, Dr. Glasser opened it with a long list of ineffective behaviors that require some guidelines. And then his inquisitive mind and his shape shifter clarifications he asked himself some very important questions, and he put those also in the book. And the questions were, what is wrong with those who need psychiatric therapy? And the question is there a need for a specific therapy for each issue? You know, if a person is catatonic, if a person is manic, is there a specific therapy that's needed for each issue? And there's a wide spectrum of issues. And he also asked the question of himself and of others, but of himself, is there an underlying issue with all ineffective behaviors, whether it is to the extreme of needing psychiatric help or just to acting out in school or you're just acting out. Anyway, he came to a conclusion, and his conclusion was, quote, everyone who needs psychiatric treatment suffers from one basic inadequacy. He is unable to fulfill his essential needs. The severity of the symptom reflects the degree to which the individual is unable to meet his needs. And so, what does it mean to have those essential needs? What are the essential needs? Well, one of the essential needs is physiological, and that is we just need to survive. We need to keep on breathing. We need to be able to look around and see what's going on. And the other essentials, there's 4 more, there's 5 total. The other essentials are all psychological. They're the things that we need to be able to not only survive, but survive in a way that is worthwhile. And so the psychological needs is the need to love and to be loved. We need each other. It is the need to have fun, to enjoy being here, to laugh, to enjoy. We have the need for freedom. Don't tell me what to do. That we have that freedom, and the need for power, the power to be able to be successful and to learn and to grow and to create. So what is the recipe for fulfilling those essential needs? Well, Dr. Glasser, in reality therapy, and especially in the Identity Society, he gives 7 principles that fulfill our essential needs. And they are involvement, our current behavior, that we evaluate our behavior to see if it's effective or not, that we plan responsible behavior. Whenever we self-evaluate and we say, oh, wait a minute, I could do a little bit better than that, then we plan how to improve. Then we also need commitment and accepting no excuses and then having no punishment. So these 7 essential needs, whose point of view are they from? Well, initially, the point of view is from the caretaker. And of course, in life situation, the first caretakers are our parents or our siblings, and our teachers, those that are close to us, our coaches. And so the caretaker, but then eventually these essential needs begin to be taken care of from the point of the individual themselves. And so here I have put down my definition. If I were defining to someone what is reality therapy and choice theory, I would suggest that it is the theory of getting real so that we can face reality and overcome illusions. It is getting honest with ourselves so that we can meet life's challenges face to face. So, how do we fill our basic needs? How do we fulfill them? Dr. Glasser suggested that if we're not fulfilling them, then we're kind of acting a little irresponsible. So how do we fill them? Well, we become involved with people, at least one person at the minimum. We need to get in touch with reality as opposed to illusions. We need to see ourselves and others as being worthwhile, that we are put on planet Earth for a reason, that we're here. We're not just here. It's also looking at moral standards and values and right and wrong. Do the right thing, not the wrong thing. It is being responsible with how we behave. It is our ability to meet one's needs in a way that does not deprive others. It is having no sour grapes or not feasting on sour grapes. He, in reality therapy, he talks about the fairy tale, one of Aesop's fairy tales, of how the fox was always going after the grapes, but because of his stature and so forth, he couldn't get up high. He had to eat the low-hanging fruits. But all the others that came in had eaten the low-hanging fruits. And so the fox that was looking around, he would just start sour grapes, and he would slink off because he did not know how to face reality so that he could stretch for the good grapes. And you start stretching for those good grapes by just thinking about the fact that, you know what, maybe those grapes a little further up really are sweet. And we fulfill our basic needs by the earlier we start learning how to do that, the longer we can appreciate life. We learn to move past the past. Things happen in life. That's just a part of life. Some things are good, some things are not so good, some things are rained out. So we need to move past the past. And in the process of moving past those things, both the positive and the negative, moving past them, is being able to live in the present, to be fully involved in the now. And then to know deep down inside that our needs are unchanging from birth to death, that physiological need of surviving and those psychological needs of love and belonging and fun and freedom and power, those things never change as long as we are alive on planet Earth. And that survival hinges on creativity. And in the book also, he gives a story of a couple that survived for 49 days without any food, and how that is pretty much, and they were relatively in good health. Anyway, they sustained each other and had faith in a rescue, and they did not give up on hope as those days kept passing and passing and passing. And they were in a plane wreck, just the two of them. Anyway, so reality therapy from the Identity Society, the book on the Identity Society. Here's a couple of quotes. Reality therapy is a system of ideas designed to help those who identify with failure learn to gain a successful identity, and to help those already successful to maintain their competency, and to help others become successful. So it's each one reach one all the way through life. And another quote from the book on page 119 is, no one changes his behavior away from failure unless first he is involved with someone, a therapist, a friend, a relative, a teacher. Involved with someone who he feels is worthwhile and who can make him believe that changing behavior is possible. Second, he must understand what he is doing. Finally, he must be able to make a judgment, a value judgment about his own behavior that he can then act upon. When a person judges his behavior as incompetent or irresponsible, that is, hurting himself and others, he has established the basis for change. So when we begin to look at the fact that what I'm doing, I keep getting slaps in the face, I keep getting low grades, I keep getting fussed at, whenever we begin to realize that we're hurting ourselves, then we have established the basis for change. So the 7 principles of reality therapy from the Identity Society book. One is involvement. And this is the foundation of therapy. All other principles add to or build their own. Be warm, personal, and friendly. With at least one successful person is a requirement for growing up successfully, maintaining success, or changing from failure to success. And so much of what we call senility is really nothing more than isolation. You think around, being around someone, whether it's young or old, and have unhealthy thoughts toward who they are, it is nothing more than they're trying to cope with the isolation they may feel. From the movie Castaway, where Tom Hanks, as the pilot that was downed and was on an island and couldn't get off of it, and he found through one of the things that, anyway, he made friends with a volleyball or a basketball, and he called him Wilson because it was the Wilson brand. We need people. We need people. We need involvement. Dr. Glasser talks in the book about that he learned a whole lot of his communication skills through Mr. Bland. He was Mr. Bland was a ward assistant, and there would be people coming into the psychiatric hospital there in West Los Angeles that were in pretty bad shape. And Mr. Bland was in charge of them over the weekend. And he had a lot of warmth and strength and kindness and a desire to help people. And Dr. Glasser gave Dr. Bland, or Mr. Bland, credit for teaching him how to really work with people and to be a good example. And that whenever we fail, it is because we are unable to get involved with the person we're attempting to help in a meaningful way. It's also, the 7th principle is looking at our current behavior. If a person denies his behavior or is unaware of it, sometimes we're just not aware, he will be unable to gain or to maintain a success identity. Without focusing on current behavior, the client cannot be helped. It is almost impossible for a person to change his feelings significantly without first changing his behavior. Unless he becomes aware, unless we become aware of our behavior, we cannot learn to behave more competently. And these little blurbs from the 7 principles is directly from the book of the Identity Society. And so some examples of our current behavior may be the fear of flying, that, and so you drive instead of fly. It's not that big a deal. But what if it versus pushing drugs in the high school? Reality therapy acts as a moralist. There's no judging. It's not to tell or to it's not to tell the person that what you're doing is ineffective. It's not to tell them that. It's to ask some self-evaluating questions so that they can become aware of the fact of what they are doing or how they are. It is helping to lead the client to evaluate his own behavior of thinking. And in that behavior, it always includes 4 qualities. To be aware of the thoughts that he is thinking, of the actions that she is taking, of the feelings that they are feeling, the physiology, and also of their physiology. And rather than we're wanting to ask them questions so that they can self-evaluate their current behavior, because feelings follow thinking. Whatever our thoughts are, our actions and our feelings will follow them. And the more concerned we have with behavior, the more we can improve our attitudes. So the third point, is acknowledge your current behavior and then evaluate that current behavior. The patient must now look at his behavior critically and judge his behavior on the basis of whether or not it is his best choice. Is it good for him and the people he cares about or would like to care about? So that evaluation, it's looking at the symptoms will begin to disappear when essential needs are fulfilled. And so it's begin to ask, what are you doing now? What are you doing? Does it include what thoughts are you thinking? What actions are you taking? What works? Is it good for you? Is it good for others? And so principle number 4 is planning responsible behavior. Once someone makes a value judgment, the person helping him assist in developing realistic plans for action to follow the value judgment. Making a decision alone is not enough. It must include action. It must include commitment. Plain and simple, not too much, but enough to reinforce how a little bit of a change could really improve things. Unhappiness is a companion of irresponsible behavior. Unhappiness is a companion of irresponsible behavior. When irresponsibility exists, only you can do something about it. In reality therapy, emotions and unhappiness are never divorced from irresponsible behavior. It's the plans are not final, but we're beginning to make some plans, but they're not final. And if one doesn't work, then there's a lot more options to take. So point number 5 is commitment. Once a plan is made, it must be carried out. To give the person greater motivation to fulfill the plan, we ask for a commitment. A commitment intensifies and accelerates the trying of new behavior. Commitment to do something worthwhile for the sake of self or some other is a natural outgrowth of the involvement necessary for success. So that commitment. Failure identities have difficulty making and keeping commitments. It's not why do you do what you do, but what do you do? A person has to own their own behaviors. And what would you like to do? What could be a better thing to do? What you do is more important than how you feel. What you do is more important than how you feel. Conscious is being aware of the choices you are making. The quicker the response to truth, the quicker that change can be manifested. Because there's always more options around the corner. Anyway, point number 5 is accept no excuses. When a person does not fulfill his commitment, The value judgment that preceded the plan must be rechecked. If the value judgment is still valid, then the plan must be reevaluated. If he does not commit, then he is no longer responsible. If he remains committed to the plan, he must be asked to honor the commitment. So under that commitment and accepting no excuses, we ask questions concerning his commitment, using what, not why. Ask for the clarification of the plan. A good therapist never gives up, never gives up, never gives up, never gives up. His tenacity helps the patient to gain the experience of commitment to a responsible plan. Dr. Glasser had a girl at the Ventura School tell him, "I knew you cared about me when you didn't take my excuses." And I often tell clients, I can see things in you that you don't see in yourself, but I'm telling you that ability is there. So it's accepting no excuses. And then point number 7 is no punishment. Not to punish is as important as to not take excuses. Punishment breaks the involvement necessary for the client to succeed. And so here, I have some quotes from Dr. Glasser. Most people think punishment is a deterrent, but if it were an effective means of getting people to change, we would have few failures. Punishment reinforces loneliness, confirming that no one cares. And when he does succeed, even a little, we give praise. Praise leads to more responsible behavior. Reasonably agree upon consequences of irresponsible behavior are not punishment. When you agree upon a reasonable response and the person well, for example, the kid leaving the bicycle out in the driveway and forgets to put it away, forgets. Coming up to an agreement of, we'll take the bicycle needs to stay in the garage for 2 days to help you remember to put it away so that it won't be backed over. That is not punishment. That is helping the person to look at the fact that they made that agreement and they were willing to keep that agreement. So here's just a few thoughts on encouragement, again, directly from Dr. Glasser. It is not only possible, it is desirable to ignore his past and work in the present, because contrary to almost universal belief, nothing which happened in the past, no matter how it may have affected him then or now, will make any difference once he learns to fulfill his needs in the present time. All those things that happened in the past just become irrelevant once they certainly begin to fade away. They begin to not be as brittle once we begin to meet our needs effectively in the present time. Another quote, therapy is a special kind of teaching or training which attempts to accomplish in a relatively short, intense period what should have been established during normal growing up. And it's not to put the parents or anything else down, it's just to realize that if somehow we didn't get it as we were growing up, let's get it now. Our options are almost never closed. We just believe they are. So I forget which saint it is that would always say, always we begin again. But yes, always we begin again. We've made a mistake. acknowledge it, take responsibility for it, take authority for it, and overcome it, and then realize that our options are almost never closed. And so successful people believe punishment will change behavior because they fear failure themselves. But failures do not fear failure. They identify with it. And so we want to not identify with failure by realizing that, you know what, our options are never closed. We may think they are, but let's re-examine our thinking and look at what reality really is. So we'll close. It is good to have everyone here. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to close out, and those that are here, we will chat. So many blessings and good mental health.